Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. My catchphrase for the channel now as well apparently. And for this review we are going to return to a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of beers from before. And this will be review number 3 or so this month that I've done from this brewery actually. But this is one that I'm very curious to try because it is based on one of their kind of cult classic beers, if you like. So for this review then, we are going to return to Stigbergets today, and we're having a look at the Amazing Haze this time. So yeah, this one is the triple dry hopped version of the original Amazing Haze New England IPA. So again, this one comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this was released as part of the Tillfälligt assortment on the 25th of August 2020 through Stigbergets here in Sweden. But it was available a few weeks before that through Glassbanken, and I think maybe through Kiosk in Copenhagen as well. So yeah, it's been a long time actually since I drank Amazing Haze. I think I had it on tap when I visited the Bar Kino in Gothenburg, if I remember rightly, but before that it would have been my review that I did of it back in 2017, I want to say. That would have been the last time before that. So yeah, very curious to try this one again. This one along with the GBG Beer Week, also from Stigbergets, and the Narangi from OO Brewing, and the Opigård's New Sweden IPA. These 4 New England IPAs are probably the kind of cult classics, if you like, for this style in Sweden in my opinion. So yeah, definitely cool to have a slightly new version of this one coming out, and I'm curious to see what the triple dry hopping does to it this time actually. So yeah, because if I remember rightly, Mosaic, the original one was double Mosaic dry hopped actually, so I don't know. But yeah, this one should be a really interesting beer. Always nice to try something new from Stigbergets. I have been impressed with the beers that I've had from these guys recently. Their IPAs recently have been very good. So yeah, hopefully this one is no exception, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before. No doubt you will see some more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Stigbergets Bryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the west coast of Sweden, and they were founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Rich Simonsson. So the pair own 2 bars that share the one kitchen. This is Bar Kino and the Hagabions Cafe, which can be found on Linnagatan in the city. Both of these opened back in 2007, and this building is actually an independent cinema. If you're curious to see it, you can go and check my out and about video I did, and I filmed some tastings in Bar Kino and had a little look at Hagabions Cafe, and you know, you can go there, check it out, enjoy a film, and go to the sort of unofficial tap room for OO Brewing and for Stigbergets Bryggeri in the basement, or in the Hagabions Cafe of course. It's a really nice little venue, I have to say. But originally the idea that these guys had was that they were going to brew a few beers that they could sell in the bars, but this led to them kegging the beer and selling it to other pubs, and eventually they started bottling the beers in November of 2014. So the original beers that these guys were producing were mainly English and German styles, but of course they really made their name when they started having a go at some of the more hoppy American styles of beer. The original brewmaster or head brewer there was Ole Anderson, who is one of the co-owners of OO Brewing, and in 2017 he left the company. He was replaced for a short period of time by Barnaby Struve, who was one of the vice presidents at Three Floyds, and he again moved on just after a couple of months. But these guys later on moved to a brewery at Partihallarna, I believe in I think that was actually in 2017 or 2018, I forget actually, but they were brewing 5,000 litre batches at a time there, and they've been working on some sour beers as well. They started selling their beers in these 440ml cans as opposed to the 330 bottles, and this has allowed them to export their beer a lot more widely, and they've now got a brew team in place of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown Brewery in London, and also Lucas Monraid, who used to work for All In Brewing, one of the numerous gypsy breweries around Gothenburg. But as of summer 2020, they've very recently just moved to a new brewery in Ringen, and this is where they're considering opening up a lambic brewery as well, actually. So you might see some Gothenburg lambic beer coming out of Stigbergets at some point as well. But apparently there's also the possibility of a bar at this new brewery and some swimming facilities as well. From what I understand, it is right on the water actually, so that would be pretty cool. But they opened up a bar in Stockholm earlier in 2020, I believe it was in April that it opened up, and they've also opened up their own folklore shop in Gothenburg as well, so I will need to go and check that out too the next time I make it up there. But as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 85 different kinds of beer, and like I said, they are one of the Swedish breweries that I would recommend those of you watching outside of the country to have a look at, because they have got some pretty impressive beers. As I said, the classic ones are the original Amazing Haze, the GBG Beer Week, the new and improved GBG Beer Week as it is a very good one as well. Muddle was a really nice New England IPA. I wish I'd got the chance to try Double Muddle actually. That was one that came out only for a very brief period of time, but yeah, hopefully with them re-releasing Muddle they will do that a little bit later as well. But yeah, very good brewery when it comes to the hazy New England IPAs. Recently I've also had some of their kind of classic beers, if you like, as well. They've released a Trip Ale and a Barley Wine, and both of those were also very nice. So they are very good when they have a go at other styles, but mainly they're known for these kind of hazy IPAs actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the history section of the video. If you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's have a look at this one then and see how we get on. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this beer before we open it up. You can see this one is quite a bit different compared to the original Amazing Haze. It's got the wee koala on it down there who looks as if he's maybe been enjoying a few too many glasses of Amazing Haze. Who knows, he looks a little bit chubby actually. But yeah, it says on the side here, Amazing Haze Triple Dry Hop Limited Edition IPA, and yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, there you can see Stigbergets Amazing Haze, if you like. So yeah, 6.5% New England IPA, this one, triple dry hopped, and as I say, I believe the dry hop that's used in this one is Mosaic, which as we know is the lovely orangey, tangerine orangey American hop. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, oh, there we are. Still a little bit left in the bottom of the can there, so we'll put that in a little bit later on. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from a New England IPA, this one has poured a lovely, this one's very hazy actually. I wonder how much of an influence the dry hopping has on that, but you can see this beer poured with about a quarter finger of a kind of creamy coloured head there. That's just faded away to a very thin foamy layer and a bit of a foamy ring around the edge. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is pretty damn thick actually. So yeah, it's pretty it is pretty cool actually. This is one of the hazier 6.5%ers that I've come across in recent times actually. If I shine the light through this, there isn't a lot of light coming through it, but I'd say that this one, it looks a little bit like a kind of peach juice in terms of its colour. It's definitely one of the kind of darker yellowy ones that I've come across, one of the more murky yellowy coloured New England IPAs, to be honest. So yeah, I would compare this one to like a mango peach juice or just a tropical juice mix actually. That's how I always colour code to the New England IPAs. They always just look like different kinds of fruit juice, to be honest with you. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the edge of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, but overall it does look pretty nice actually. I like how this one goes together. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Oh yeah, you can smell some of the dustiness from the hops in this. You always get that with dry hopping. It does give you a little bit of dustiness, and I've always said that with The New England IPAs, I think, need a little bit of time in the can to mellow out as it is, but if you dry hop them, they need just that little bit more time. You need to leave these in the can for at least a week after they're released, just to let the kind of dry hopping mellow out a little bit. Otherwise it's just green and kind of dusty in my mind. It's never a problem you really had with the West Coasters, I think, though, because they were more bitter, and that kind of covered it a little bit more. But yeah, and with this beer, straight away you get that kind of typical, you do get that typical sort of big oaty creaminess out of this one. You can smell a little bit of the wheat coming out of this as well, but it strikes me as being very, very smooth. I mean, if I compare the way that this one smells in the malt base to the ones that they're releasing now, Ololeo is probably the best. It's probably the best one that I've had in recent times from Stigbergets, but that's a big double IPA. Maybe it's fairer to compare it to something like Mistler, which is probably one of the better lower alcohol ones that I've had in recent times. But even that is heavier than this. It was 7.5%. This one, you know, the malt base, without that bit of sweetness that the newer ones have, it seems a bit strange actually. So yeah, this one definitely has a, I don't want to use the word flat because it's quite negative almost, but this one doesn't have that little bit of sweetness that you normally get from the New England IPAs these days. So yeah, you get a good bit of a white bready wheaty note out of this one. You can smell a bit of the pale malt in there, you can smell the smoothness of the oats, and yeah, the malt base in that sense doesn't really have a sweet edge to it, if that makes sense. So yeah, mainly it's quite, I would say it is quite creamy, and it does have a good bit of a thicker wheaty note to it as well, that sort of white bready kind of thing. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this, I think, is very, it really is smooth. The malt base of this one is quite smooth. It almost smells a little bit boozier than you would think for a 6.5%er. But yeah, of course, the focus of this beer is on the hoppy side of things. There is a good little bit of earthiness comes out of this one, and if it is Mosaic that they're using in this, that would make sense because it has that little earthy element to it. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's interesting too. But yeah, good bit of a kind of quite spicy floral aromaticity coming out of this one. Nice little bit of lighter grassiness there, and you've got a good little bit of you do have a good little bit of a kind of tangerine orangey note coming out of this one. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of stronger the oily tangerines, they've got a good little bit of an orangey quality. That doesn't make sense. They've got a bit of an oily quality to them. So you do get a bit of that oily tangerine note in there. There's a wee bit of a kind of passion fruity and mango, you know, that typical tropical fruit quality in there as well. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this one, it's just interesting. As I say, the thing that strikes me about this is it just doesn't feel as if it has quite the same edge to it that the newer ones have. But if they are basically using the original recipe for Amazing Haze, that's the kind of thing. The beer industry is always moving, so coming back and trying sort of classic beers like this, you are going to notice things like this, you know, because your palate evolves as the kind of the style of beer evolves as well. And I think since Amazing Haze came out, I do think the malt bases on these New England IPAs, at least in Sweden, have got a bit thicker and a bit more kind of sweet, if you like. They have got a little bit of sweetness in them now, whereas they never really had that. They were more creamy and smooth rather than anything else, whereas now, yeah, a bit more sweet and oily. But yeah, as I say, good little bit of tangerine orange there, a little bit oily. There's a wee bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty quality to this one as well, almost a little touch lemony. But yeah, there's a wee bit of a mangoey, passion fruity note that comes out of this one as well. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it, but we're going to have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Amazing Haze, the triple dry hopped version of the original Amazing Haze from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. Oh yeah. It's nice. I think what I was saying about the malt base, kind of on first impression, it does kind of hold up there. The malt base in this one, I think, is considerably more bready leaning and smooth, if you like, compared to the other ones that I've had more recently from this brewery. You really notice the difference there. It's always, as I say, it's always interesting to see with beers like this just how the style has evolved, and you always get different little traits in different countries and stuff like that. I've been very lucky with this style to try some of the, you know, the really hyped examples, the Alchemists, the Tree Houses, the Trilliums and stuff. And yeah, it just, you know, when you try beers, when you try these ones and then compare them to the ones that are local around us in Europe, I think we are very lucky when it comes to these styles. We've got some very capable producers in the IPA field these days. But yeah, this one is pretty nice. It strikes, you know, if it is possible to say it, it strikes me as being a little bit old school for the New England IPA, because like I say, a lot of them these days have that kind of Werther's Originally type sweetness to them, whereas this one is definitely more smooth and kind of creamy in its malt base, if you like. And I like that about it. It is quite cool to see that even the New England IPA, which is probably the most hyped style around at the moment, it's kind of cool to see that there is an old school. There is now an old school to this style, actually. I think I would call this one, yeah, properly old school New England IPA, as strange as that is to say. And I think this one is in good condition as well in terms of the dry hopping, because it's mellowed out quite nicely. But yeah, let's try and break this beer down then. So straight away with this one, you get the pale malty quality just blanket in the middle of your tongue. Towards the back third of your palate, you've got a nice kind of smooth wheaty quality to it. As you move further forward on the palate there towards the middle third of your tongue, on the front kind of half of that you'll get the kind of smoother oaty notes out of the beer, and just behind it you'll feel the kind of lighter pale malty qualities. It does have a little touch of crispness to it towards, if you go to the centre of your tongue and just move back, you will feel a little bit of crispness just evolving out of the mouthfeel on this one, and I do like how that element comes out of it. But yeah, this one, it strikes me as very juicy actually. This one actually, I would consider this as being a little bit more juicy than some of the other New Englands that I've had recently. I think it's probably the malt base. That's probably one of the trade-offs that you have with this style, come to think of it, is that, you know, the thicker you make the malt base and the creamy, the sort of more oily and stuff you make the malt base, the less juicy the style feels. So yeah, I think it's interesting, as I say, to come back and see a more old school recipe of this this sub style, if you like. I do find this one to be a bit more juicy and fruity compared to the other examples I've had recently, which really are more oily and kind of thick, if you like. So yeah, this is a nice little change of pace within the New England IPA category. I think I like how this one comes across. So yeah, malt base, as I say, it's pretty straight up. Back third of your palate is slightly thicker and wheaty, a little bit of grainy and very slightly spicy notes there. As you move into the middle third of your tongue, a bit lighter and pale malty towards the back of that middle third of your tongue, then it's a bit more oaty and creamy going further forward. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, it is a little bit more earthy. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, that quickly fades away and becomes more floral. As you reach the front corners, it's a little bit more kind of spicy, to be honest with you, but it's got quite a bit of brightness to it. But then round the very front curve of the palate, it's a wee bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. But yeah, I like, as I say, the fruitiness that comes out of this beer is quite nice. The further you go into the aftertaste, you do start to get a little bit of that almost dustiness, that kind of green hoppy dustiness. You can detect a little bit of that on the edge of the palate, but we are just getting this beer, at least I'm trying this one, and I think it's just kind of getting into its prime, to be honest with you, because a lot of the dustiness that you'll get has kind of faded away with this one. So yeah, it's just mellowed out really, really nicely, and you get a wee bit more of that floral character sitting there on the beer. But yeah, the grassiness around the front edge of the tongue on this one is very, very nice. But yeah, behind the front curve of the palate, on the front third of your tongue, that's where you get that nice fruity bubble or that nice kind of oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the hops. If you go towards the back of your palate with that one, it does have a wee slight passion fruit to it, a wee touch of mango or something like that, but really the fruitiness in this beer is dominated by the oranges. It's quite a big tangerine orangey note to it, this one. As I say, I know that this beer is triple dry hop with Mosaic, and Mosaic plays a big role in this beer, but I'm not sure if there are other hops involved in this one as well. I really don't know that. Actually, I thought, because I know that if I remember rightly, the GBG beer week, and I think it's Nelson Sauvin, Mosaic and Simcoe that's in it. But yeah, I think this one strikes me as if the fruitiness is quite simple, I think, so I'm really not sure whether there is another hop in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else in this. It'll be like a little bit of Victoria's Secret or you know, Simcoe or something like that. It's a kind of softer tropically fruit that comes out of this one. There's just a wee bit of passion fruit at the back of that front third of the tongue, little touch of mango there, but then the real front kind of tip of your tongue is pretty much tangerine and orange, and it's got a nice bright juiciness to it, which is great. And yeah, this beer, the mouthfeel of this one is really nice. On the very tip of the palate you do get a little bit of a kind of grassy, zesty note to it. But yeah, I think the mouthfeel of this beer is the thing that really kind of strikes me the most. So let's focus on that a little bit. So yeah, this one then, I would say this is a pretty mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is very smooth. The thing I notice about this one is that it's quite a wet to me at the moment with the way my palate is with the other IPAs I've had recently. This one feels like quite a wet and light and easy drinking New England IPA. As I've said in the video, I think it's to do with the way the malt bases are now. They feel a bit thicker, I think. They're a little bit more oily and they have a bit of kind of brown sugary sweetness in them these days, whereas this one is more it's more bready, it's more oaty and wheaty and stuff like that. This is what the New England IPA kind of used to be like. It's the sweetness has kind of evolved. Has evolved from this style in more recent times, so I think as a result of that this beer does feel a little bit wetter and the fruitiness comes out a little bit more zesty because of that. So that's the really interesting point for me about this beer, is the mouthfeel. So I would say in terms of hoppy bitterness with this one, I think it's your standard sort of 25 or 30 IBUs. You know, it doesn't feel any more than that, even with the dry hopping. The middle of your palate, like I say, the malt base is quite smooth. There's not really any sweetness to this one. I probably would have said differently back in 2016 or 17 when I first reviewed this beer. I probably would have said quite differently. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, as I say, 25 IBUs, but a really nice juicy but also quite wet feeling fruity character out of this one. So yeah, the main difference for me with this beer compared to the others, this one feels a bit smoother almost and a bit lighter in its malt base, and it also as a result feels a bit juicier because of the lack of the oily character in this one too. So yeah, it's a really interesting point to make from this one. It's the mouthfeel that really strikes me on this, but this is a kind of I don't know if you can really call it a reimagination. It's a special edition of a kind of, pardon me, classic Swedish IPA, this one. So yeah, for me this was a really interesting beer to try because it really highlights how the style has evolved in recent times with a thicker, you know, a kind of thicker backbone and a bit more brown sugary sweetness in the style too. But yeah, thumbs up to Stigbergets Bryggeri for this one. Amazing Haze, one of the cult classic Swedish New England IPAs, and this is a really nice kind of addition. It helps remind me of this beer a little bit. It's been a long time since I've drunk one of these, the original Amazing Haze that is. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Amazing Haze, I guess we can say, from Stigbergets Bryggeri, the triple dry hop version of the original Amazing Haze, 6.5% New England IPA with Mosaic from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. A lovely beer, this one, and it really reminded me of what this style used to be like. Of course, it has evolved since then. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets as well. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future, and I think I do have one more beer from them in the fridge. Yeah, they're always very prolific and releasing different things. So check out this brewery if you're interested in Swedish beers, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was the Amazing Haze, 6.5% New England IPA, triple dry hop version of their original kind of cult classic beer from Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Slange, skål, make sure you check out this beer. Cheers.